Let me just give like a brief synopsis of what it is, and then we'll talk about where the technology is at this point. So AI is like a very general umbrella term. It's almost more of a marketing term than anything else. The real field that does anything interesting in AI right now would be called machine learning. And it's this crazy intersection between computer programming, statistics, and the different types of like math and calculus. And it's all kind of based around like the neuron psychology and all that type of stuff. So it's this very wild and new field. The machine learning itself, it was kind of first invented maybe in like the 50s and 60s, but people didn't really have the data to really make it work. They didn't have the computing power like they do today.
Yeah.
So I guess I just want to start by saying, it's really just a very easy to get going thing. Like anybody who has a half hour can get online and start building these types of models. It's not that crazy. It's just that these companies like Google and Facebook, they have all the smart people and they've just invested so much resources that they're doing some crazy stuff with it now that I think is really interesting and I want to talk about. But to kind of give people a window into what it actually is.
Sorry, just a little closer. There you go.
Is
perfect.
Like I said, it was math. So what you're doing, the idea is to take certain variables. And so that could be something like the location of a house, the distance to a nearest hospital or school, the quality of the neighborhood around it, and like the price of the house. Like, so let's say you wanted to know the price of the house and I gave you these variables. How do they all interact to give you the price of the house?
Gotcha.
And so that's what machine learning is doing. It's trying to optimize that model to always give you the price. So
gotcha. Okay.
What it is and so the first major break or subdivision of machine learning is the idea of supervised learning, which is kind of what I just described, and that's kind of the bulk of it all. And then there's unsupervised learning, which right now is really just like about grouping certain numbers together. It's not the most interesting field in the world, but it's so new, this whole thing of machine learning, that there probably is a PhD out there somewhere working on some fantastic new algorithm in unsupervised learning.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, it's just growing so much every day that nobody can really keep up. Even like the titans of the industry can't keep up.
Gotcha.
So it's fascinating. But so we have supervised learning, and that's taking these different types of features and trying to predict either a class. So it either is this type of cancer or that type of cancer, or it's benevolent or benign, or it's trying to find a number, like a price of a house. So It's either this regression or classification, we call it.
Gotcha.
And then the major subdivisions of, I guess, supervised learning is the idea of a decipherable model and a black box model. So a decipherable model is something that any of us could have really done in high school or college. It's just a linear regression, and then it's just basic graphing stuff, and then it's understanding the weights attached to each of the variables.
Gotcha.
And then from there, you just kind of can know the relationship. But the thing is that these decipherable models are not quite as accurate as these undecipherable models. And the undecipherable model that really is taken off is called a neural network. And it's the thing that's based around the brain.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So it's basically a network of neurons. And each neuron is actually just an equation. Okay. So you take your input. So some feature will say like the distance to the nearest hospital, something like that. You multiply it by a weight, and then you add a bias to it. And then there's fancy things you can do after that, but that's basically the whole structure of what is happening in machine learning.
Okay, cool.
It's all it is. It's very, very simple. And so the idea that we're going to go from these types of similar or small networks of equations to some kind of general intelligence, it's kind of hard to see exactly how we get there, but I don't dispute that it is impossible.
Gotcha.
Because I think that ultimately it's a very good description of what's happening up here for us.
Okay. Yeah, that's an awesome, that's really cool to break that down in that way, because I think a lot of people have this view that artificial intelligence is like not just, it's no different than human intelligence or something. They have that idea that we're going to create a computer that somehow becomes conscious like a human being.
Yeah, or people are worried about it like happening like tomorrow.
Yeah, and exactly.
That's the other thing. It's if this happens at all, it's not going to happen for a very long time.
Gotcha.
But what is kind of very exciting about the field right now, we're seeing a lot of the fruits of a lot of these different kinds of algorithms. So just to kind of run down like a quick list of what it's really used for popularly right now, is it's really interesting because it's the way kind of life first started evolving senses to respond to its environment. We started with vision, and now we're doing speech, and after that's going to be something like reasoning and networks of different kinds of reasoning. So the big models, I guess, that get used are these types of vision models, and it's just straight up detecting objects in the environment.
Like a famous one is automated cars, right? That's what they're doing pretty much.
Yeah, so that's kind of what those CAPTCHAs are that you see all over the internet, where they ask you like, hey, prove you're not a robot by identifying a street light. It's actually, you're feeding the algorithms data.
Oh, I see.
So they're taking each of those things that you're identifying as a street light or not a street light, and it's helping the cars get better at identifying those things.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's a very interesting way to kind of gather resources for themselves.
Gotcha. I want to sorry to interrupt you, but I want to take a step back because I think this is really interesting what you said a second ago, which is it's evolving like humans evolved. Like it's kind of going on that same path. I just wanted to reiterate that because that's a really interesting thing, that idea. I haven't thought about it like that at all.